She humiliated me in front of everyone, called me a nobody, a cuck. But a few hours later, she called crying, saying she loved me. I was shaking, not from heartbreak, but from the silence that came after her words. That night, something inside me died, and something darker woke up. Stay till the end, because this isn't a story about revenge. It's about what happens when a man finally stops begging to be loved and starts listening to the voice that whispers, "Enough." I still remember the taste of the whiskey that night, bitter, smoky, heavy on the tongue. The kind of drink that burns slow like shame. It was Friday, the kind of small-town night where everyone ends up in the same bar, pretending their lives aren't falling apart. I'd come straight from work, still wearing my mechanic's jacket, oil stains on my sleeves. She hated that jacket, said it made me look poor. Ashley was already there, laughing, her blonde hair glowing under the cheap neon light, that half smirk on her face that used to melt me. Now it just made my stomach turn. Beside her, Derek Cole, the guy who used to cheat on math tests off me in high school, now owning 3 car dealerships and a body like a fitness ad. I should have walked out the second I saw them together. But I didn't, because some pathetic part of me still believed that maybe she'd smile and wave me over. Instead, she laughed louder. "Mike, you finally crawled out of the garage." The whole bar turned. My name rolled off her tongue like a punchline. Derek's smirk cut deeper than the whiskey. I smiled, that dead kind of smile you wear when your world is collapsing and you can't show it. She leaned back in her chair, one arm around Derek. "You know what I love about this man?" she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "He owns things. Mike just fixes them." Laughter. My laughter. The kind people give when they want to disappear. I tried to say something, anything, but my throat felt like sandpaper. When I finally spoke, it came out soft, almost polite. "Let's go home, Ash." Her eyes went cold. "Home? You think we still have a home, Mike?" And then she whispered it right next to Derek's ear, but loud enough for me. "You're such a nobody, my little cuck husband." Something inside me cracked. Quietly, almost beautifully. Not rage, not tears, just emptiness. I left without a word. The door's chime sounded too gentle for a night like that. Outside, the cold air felt like mercy. I started walking with no direction, just streets and streetlights, until my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I answered because I still loved the ghost of the woman she once was. Her voice came trembling through static. "Mike, I love you. Are you all right?" And I laughed. A dry, broken laugh, because I finally understood. She wasn't calling out of love. She was calling to make sure I was still beneath her. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I was. I met Ashley in the summer of 2011. She was sunlight, loud, magnetic, impossible not to look at. The kind of woman who made the air feel expensive just by standing in it. I was 23, broke, and trying to pay off my father's debts by fixing cars out of a half-rotted garage. She walked in one day with a broken taillight, wearing a red dress that didn't belong in a place that smelled like gasoline. She smiled and said, "You look like the kind of man who can fix anything." I didn't know it then, but she wasn't talking about the car. She liked men who needed saving. It made her feel like a god, and I wanted to be saved. Our first year together felt like magic. She made me believe I was worth something, that I wasn't just another small-town mechanic fading into dust. She'd leave little notes in my lunch bag, write "my hero" on the bathroom mirror with lipstick. And I believed her, every word. I thought love was about giving everything you had, even when it hurt. Then, little by little, she began to take more than I could give. It started small, jokes about my job, about how cute it was that I got my hands dirty for a living. I laughed because love was supposed to be forgiving. Then came the rules, invisible at first, then carved into me like commandments. Don't wear that jacket when we go out. Don't talk too much around my friends. Don't drink cheap beer, it makes you look pathetic. One night, I came home late from the shop, covered in grease, and she was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked upside and said, "You know, Mike, I could have had anyone. I remember staring at her and realizing she wasn't trying to hurt me. She was bored. I'd stopped being her project. And she hated that. Still, I stayed. Because love, I thought, was about holding on through the storms. But sometimes the storm isn't outside. Sometimes it sleeps beside you, whispering your flaws back into your ear until you start believing them. She used to say, "You'd be nothing without me." And I would smile, touch her hand, and tell her she was wrong. But deep down, I started to wonder if she was right. I became smaller without realizing it. Every argument ended with me apologizing for things I didn't even do. Every smile from her felt like charity. And I convinced myself it was love. Because the alternative, admitting she didn't love me anymore, was too heavy to carry. People think betrayal happens in one moment, one kiss, one lie, one night. But it's slower than that. It's a steady drip of contempt until you're drowning in silence. And by the time you realize it, you're too tired to swim. Looking back, I think the bar wasn't the night she destroyed me. It was just the night I finally noticed I was already in ruins. It started with a smell. Something faint, expensive, and unfamiliar. A perfume I hadn't bought. Ashley walked past me one morning, humming, her hair perfectly set, her phone clutched like a secret. I asked, "New perfume?" She smiled without looking up. "Oh, just something I tried at the mall." I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But there was a rhythm to her lies. A melody I'd heard too many times before. She was glowing again the way she used to when we first met. Only this time it wasn't for me. She started going out more. Girls' nights, yoga classes, late meetings. I told myself she deserved her space, that I was being paranoid. But love, it makes you blind in all the wrong ways. You start building excuses instead of boundaries. I remember one night, around midnight, she came home laughing. That sound, it used to be my favorite thing in the world. Now it cut like glass. I asked who she was with. She said, "You wouldn't know them." And she walked right past me, smelling like whiskey and someone else's cologne. The next morning, I noticed she'd changed her phone password. She said it was for privacy. I told her I trusted her. But my voice cracked in a way that betrayed me. Days turned into weeks. She'd leave the house with her phone glued to her hand, smiling at texts I never saw. I started looking for signs, receipts, lipstick stains, anything. But she was too smart for that. She knew how to cheat without leaving fingerprints. Then one night, I heard her in the bathroom, whispering. Her tone was soft, playful, the kind of voice she hadn't used with me in years. I pressed my ear against the door, shame burning through my chest. And I heard it. A man's name, Derek. The sound of that name sent something cold crawling down my spine. She laughed, said something about him being better at surprises. I stepped away from the door like it had burned me. The next morning, she was making pancakes, humming again, cheerful. She looked up and said, "You're quiet today." I smiled, even though my hands were trembling. "Just tired," I said, and she kissed my cheek like nothing happened. That was the first time I realized how terrifying indifference can be. She didn't even care enough to hide it anymore. And I didn't have the courage to confront her. Not yet, because love doesn't die with betrayal. It dies when you start pretending you don't see it. I used to think every marriage had rules, the unspoken kind. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't say words you can't take back. But Ashley's rules were different. They changed with her mood, her drink, her hunger for control. And the only rule that never changed was this: she wins. She started testing me, little things at first. She'd flirt with waiters in front of me, then ask, "You jealous?" If I said no, she called me cold. If I said yes, she called me insecure. Either way, I lost. Then she began her games. Once, she told me to wear a suit to her friend's birthday party. Said she wanted to show me off. When we arrived, she spent the night telling everyone how adorably awkward I was in formal clothes. People laughed. She laughed the loudest. And I smiled, because I didn't know what else to do. Another time, she brought Derek up in casual conversation. He's just so confident, you know? So decisive. Her eyes watched me as she said it, like a scientist studying a rat. I nodded and said, "Yeah, he seems like a good guy." That was the night she stopped hiding her smile. One evening I came home early. She was in our living room, glass of wine in hand, music playing low. She looked at me like she'd forgotten who I was. Then, with that same venom-laced sweetness, she said, "You know what your problem is, Mike? You let people walk all over you. Even me." I said nothing, because she was right, and somehow that made her angrier. From then on, she made a ritual of reminding me what I wasn't. She'd compare me to men I didn't know, richer, bolder, louder. Once she said, "I wish you'd just take control for once." And when I finally did, raising my voice, slamming my hand against the counter, she smirked. "There he is," she whispered. "The fake tough guy." I started to wonder if there was a version of me she wouldn't hate. But there wasn't, because the more I bent, the more she enjoyed watching me break. Her friends began to notice. At dinner one night, one of them said, "Ashley, you're so hard on him." Ashley laughed. "Oh, don't worry, he likes it." And I just sat there, swallowing humiliation with my drink, pretending it didn't burn. That night, lying beside her, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't cruel by accident. She needed to see me small because it made her feel big. And I let her. But I also felt something shift deep inside me. Quiet, dangerous, patient. It wasn't hate yet. Not quite. It was the beginning of something sharper. Something that was learning to wait. It was around 12:17 a.m. when the phone rang. I was lying on the couch, half asleep, TV flickering in an empty room. The house smelled like dust and wine, her perfume still clinging to the curtains even though she wasn't home. She'd said she was out with the girls. I didn't ask which ones. I'd stopped asking weeks ago. The screen lit up with her name, Ashley. For a moment, I thought about letting it ring. But I didn't, because even when she hurt me, my first instinct was still to answer. Her voice came through the speaker. Soft, trembling, familiar. "Mike, are you awake?" I said nothing for a few seconds, just listened. Then quietly, "Yeah, what's wrong?" She was crying, or pretending to. "It's just, I miss you," she whispered. "I hate when we fight. I love you. You know that?" There was a pause, the kind that stretches long enough to expose the truth behind the words. Somewhere in the background I heard music, laughter, a man's voice. She wasn't alone. I closed my eyes. "Ashley, where are you?" Her tone changed instantly, colder, irritated. "Out. Why does it matter?" I swallowed hard. "Because you just said you missed me." She laughed, a cruel little sound. "Don't make this about you, Mike. You always do that." My chest tightened. I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, "Then why call me?" Silence. Then that mocking sweetness again. "Because I still care about you. You're safe, you know? My constant. Safe. Not loved. Not wanted. Just safe. A backup plan with a pulse." "I'm tired, Ash," I said finally. "Don't be mad," she whispered. "Please. I'll come home soon." I almost believed her. Almost. But when the call ended, I noticed something. She hadn't hung up. The line was still open. And then I heard it. Her laugh, the same one from that bar. Followed by Derek's voice. "You think he bought it?" Her reply was like a knife pressed gently against skin. "He always does." I ended the call. My hands were shaking. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the screen, the reflection of my face warped in the glass. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the phone. I just stopped feeling. Because that's how betrayal works. It doesn't explode. It erodes. It takes every memory you loved and rots it from the inside until nothing tastes the same again. When she came home an hour later, I pretended to be asleep. She kissed my forehead, whispered, "I love you," and I didn't move. Because for the first time in our marriage, I realized something terrifying. I no longer cared whether she meant it or not. I went back to the same bar where she'd humiliated me. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to feel the pain again. Just to remind myself I was still alive. It was a Wednesday night, almost empty. The jukebox was playing some sad country song about loss and whiskey. Fitting. The same cracked leather stool. The same faint smell of bleach and beer. Except this time I wasn't there to see her. The bartender looked up as I sat down. Dark hair pulled back into a loose ponytail. Tattoos creeping up her arms. Eyes that looked like they'd seen every kind of heartbreak. Her name tag said Lena. She poured me a drink before I even asked. "You look like a whiskey guy." I smirked. "You psychic or just observant?" She shrugged. "You look like someone who tried beer, realized it wasn't strong enough, and gave up pretending." She wasn't wrong. We didn't talk much at first. I drank in silence. She wiped glasses, humming softly, occasionally glancing my way. After my second drink, she said, "You were here a few weeks ago, right? With the blonde." My stomach twisted. "Yeah." Her voice softened. "Rough night." I nodded. "You could say that." She leaned forward, elbows on the counter. "You want to talk about it or just drink until it stops hurting?" I thought about lying, saying I was fine, but I was tired of pretending. "She cheated," I said finally, "with someone I knew." She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She didn't look shocked or pity me. Instead, she just nodded, slow and calm. They always do it with someone close. Makes it easier to justify. I blinked. "You sound like you've seen this before." "I've been this before," she said quietly, pouring herself a small shot. "To them, it's not about love. It's about control." Her words hit harder than the whiskey. For the first time in months, I felt understood, not consoled, not pitied, understood. I asked, "So what do you do after that? When you realize they don't love you anymore?" She looked at me for a long time, then said, "You stop begging for their love, and start remembering who you were before they convinced you you're worthless." That sentence sat between us like a confession. I didn't have an answer. She gave me a small, tired smile. "Don't worry, Mike. The first stage is always confusion, then anger, then clarity." I raised my glass. "And after clarity?" She clinked hers against mine. "Peace, if you're lucky." We drank in silence. For the first time in a long while, the silence didn't hurt. Felt safe. When I left the bar, I realized I hadn't thought about Ashley for almost 20 minutes. That felt like a miracle. As I walked home through the empty streets, her words kept echoing in my head. Stop begging for their love. That night, I didn't dream of her face. I dreamed of fire, and how beautiful it looked when something finally burned away clean. I remember the night the way a veteran remembers the smell of gunpowder, with fear and clarity mixed into one unbearable cocktail. Started like any other evening. The house was too quiet, the kind of silence that hums in your ears and makes you feel watched. I had been sitting on the couch, staring at the TV but not really seeing anything. My phone buzzed, her name again. Emily. She texted, "Can we talk?" 3 words. After everything. After the humiliation, the laughter, the bar, the betrayal. She wanted to talk. I typed back nothing. Instead, I stared at the glowing letters of her name on the screen until the phone dimmed. Then came another text. "I still love you. Please don't shut me out." I laughed. Out loud. It was a hollow, twisted laugh that sounded like it came from someone else. Someone broken beyond repair. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured myself a drink. Whiskey. No ice. My hands were trembling. Then headlights flashed through the window. A car pulled into the driveway. Hers. She came in without knocking, like she still had the right. She was wearing his jacket. His jacket. I knew it instantly. That leather one. The one he always wore when he came to pick her up for work dinners. "Jake," she said softly. "You look tired." I didn't say anything. She tried to approach me, but something in my face must have stopped her. She froze halfway across the room. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to hurt you like this." "Then why did you laugh at me?" I asked. "Why did you let them call me that? In front of everyone?" She looked down. "Because I was angry. Because I wanted to feel powerful again. You stopped looking at me the way you used to." Her words sliced through me. I walked toward her, close enough to see the reflection of the kitchen light in her eyes, and the reflection of me. A ghost. You destroyed me, I said, piece by piece. She reached out, maybe to touch my arm, maybe to stop me. I don't even know. But I stepped back. Leave, I said. Jake, please. Leave. Something in my voice made her stumble backward. She turned and ran out, crying, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, still trembling, until the whiskey glass slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. I fell to my knees, the shards glittering around me like tiny pieces of my sanity. My reflection broken in the glass. I didn't move for a long time. The night stretched on, and in that silence, I realized something terrifying. I no longer recognized the man staring back at me. That night, something inside me snapped. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid anymore. The next morning felt unreal, like the world had gone gray overnight. The sunlight that poured through the blinds didn't warm me anymore. It only exposed the dust, the emptiness, and the truth I'd been running from. Emily was gone, but her presence, her perfume, her laughter echoing in my head, her betrayal, was everywhere. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the broken glass from the night before. The shards glistened like a graveyard of moments I'd never get back. I could still hear her crying as she left. I could still hear myself shouting. I wasn't proud of it, but I wasn't ashamed either. For once, I'd let her see the pain she'd buried inside me. That morning, I didn't go to work. I didn't shower. I just sat there and thought about all the ways she'd humiliated me, about the bar, about her friends whispering, smirking, saying I wasn't man enough, about her lover, Ryan, the golden boy with the smirk that haunted my dreams. By noon, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. No violence, no scene. I was going to take everything back. Quietly. I started with the small things. I logged into our shared accounts, the ones she thought I didn't know about. I found her messages, her photos, her secrets, and I sent them to him. No words, just proof. Then I waited. It didn't take long. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Jake, the voice said. We need to talk. It was Ryan. His voice wasn't as confident now. There was panic under the surface, like a man who just realized his castle was made of glass. I met him that evening, at the same bar where it all started. The irony wasn't lost on me. He walked in, eyes darting around, scanning for cameras, for witnesses. Why'd you send that to me? He hissed. I leaned back, calm. Because you should know what she says about you when you're not around. He froze. What are you talking about? I slid my phone across the table. His name lit up the screen. Ryan, work idiot pile of poo. With her messages right below it. He's good for now, but boring. He doesn't make me feel anything. Not like Jake used to. He read them. His face turned pale. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just stood up, left a 20 on the table for the drink I didn't touch, and said, "Welcome to the club." As I walked out, the bartender looked at me, maybe recognizing me, maybe remembering the night she'd humiliated me here. But this time, I wasn't the same man. Outside, the air was cold, biting. For the first time in months, I felt it cut through me, alive, sharp, clean. Revenge hadn't healed me, but it had freed me. That night, I didn't text Emily back. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't need to, because I finally understood. She didn't destroy me. She revealed me, and maybe that's even darker. It was just past midnight when my phone rang. At first, I thought it was part of a dream, that strange, hollow sound echoing in the dark. I blinked, half awake. The room still soaked in the ghost blue light of the street lamp outside. Then I saw the name on the screen. Emily. I stared at it. My chest tightened. My thumb hovered over the answer button longer than I care to admit. Then, almost without meaning to, I picked up. Jake. Her voice trembled. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. The line went quiet except for her breathing, slow, uneven, like she'd been crying. I saw the photos, she whispered. Ryan showed me. What did you do? I didn't answer. I wanted to hear her squirm, to feel that cold panic crawl through her veins the way it had through mine for months. "You ruined everything," she said, almost choking on her words. "Do you know what you've done?" "I just told the truth," I said quietly. There was silence, then a sob. "I still love you, Jake," she said, voice cracking. "I swear I do. I messed up. I hurt you. But please don't become like this." I almost laughed. Love? Now she spoke of love, after stripping me of my dignity, after turning me into the punchline of her little games? "You don't get to say that," I said. My voice came out low, almost a growl. "You don't love me, Emily. You loved having someone to control." "Jake, please. You humiliated me. You made me doubt my worth. You called me a cuckold in front of strangers. You broke something that will never be fixed. And now you're scared. Not because you lost me, but because you lost control." Her breathing hitched. I could hear her trying to form words, but none came. Then, faintly, I heard something behind her. A man's voice. Ryan's. Arguing, angry. And then the line went dead. I sat there, staring at the silent phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. The house felt smaller, colder. I realized I didn't want her dead. I didn't even want her hurt. I just wanted her gone. Out of my head, out of my story. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because an hour later, I heard a knock on my door. Slow, heavy, relentless. I looked through the peephole and saw flashing red and blue lights. The knock at the door came again. Louder this time. My hands were shaking as I approached it. I didn't know if I was expecting Emily, the cops, or some kind of reckoning. I peeked through the peephole, 2 officers, badges glinting in the porch light. "Mr. Reed," one said, his voice calm, professional. "We need you to come down to the station. There's been an incident involving your wife and another man." My stomach dropped. I didn't ask questions. I grabbed my jacket and followed them in silence. The streets outside felt unreal. Every light too bright, every shadow too sharp. At the station, they explained it. Emily and Ryan had gotten into an argument. It had escalated. Someone called the police after Ryan shoved her during a fight. She wasn't seriously hurt, they said, but the charges were serious. Assault, endangerment, reckless behavior. I listened, my head spinning. Relief mixed with something darker. Satisfaction? Maybe something closer to clarity. She wasn't the perfect, untouchable force that had haunted me. She was just human. Flawed, dangerous, but no longer untouchable. On the drive back, I thought about everything. The bar, the midnight calls, the humiliation, the whispers, the lies. Every piece of my life she had tried to break. And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't in years. Control. Over my own story. Over my own heart. When I got home, the apartment felt like a different place. Empty, yes. Silent, yes. But not suffocating. Free. The pieces of me she had tried to destroy were still there. Sharper, wiser, more aware. I sat down at the bar where I had first met Lena, remembering her words. "You stop begging for their love, and start remembering who you were before they convinced you you're worthless." And I finally understood. The pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, they didn't define me. They revealed me. They pushed me to a place I had forgotten existed. A place where I could breathe, see clearly, and finally live for myself. I didn't hate her anymore. Not really. Pitied her. She had spent so long trying to break me. She forgot she could break herself. I poured myself a drink, stared out the window at the night sky, and whispered to no one. This is mine. My life. My story. And it starts now. The phone buzzed again. Emily. I didn't answer. I let it ring. For the first time in years, silence felt like peace. What would you have done if someone betrayed you like that? Could you stay silent? Or would you break too? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if you stayed with me until the end, hit subscribe. Because this is only the beginning of stories that show the dark truth of love, betrayal, and finding yourself when everything falls apart.